being joined today by William Orlow, one of the Detroit area's premier bankruptcy attorneys. Mr. Orlow, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
So, Mr. Orlow, how many bankruptcies would you say that you handle every year?
Well, as you might imagine, we're very busy. I would say on average we handle approximately 600 cases every year, and it's been like that for many, many years.
Wow. Well, that certainly qualifies you to answer our questions today. To begin with, can you please explain the difference between Chapter 7 bankruptcy and Chapter 13 bankruptcy?
Oh, sure. Chapter 7 is known as a liquidation, but most people refer to it as a fresh start. In essence, the debtors who are in debt file a petition with the court and a schedule of income and expenditures, and it's very clear from those schedules that they make enough to live, but they cannot afford their debt, and then the debts are discharged. Now, there are certain exceptions to the Chapter 7 discharge, but there is no repayment plan where there would be in Chapter 13. Chapter 13 is known as a debt adjustment plan. Many people may refer to it as a reorganization. It's a personal reorganization as opposed to a business. And in Chapter 13, the debtors file a plan of partial repayment where over a fixed period of time they pay a portion of their bills back. And there are good reasons for filing both Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. It simply depends on the circumstances.
Okay, so how does someone decide if Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 is better for their particular situation?
Well, I think that analysis begins with an interview with a professional. When we have our clients come in, we ask them to bring certain paperwork with them. We need proof of income. We need, obviously, all of their debts or the liabilities, as they're called under the Bankruptcy Code. And we analyze their situation. And we also look at their assets. Contrary to what many people think, you don't lose everything in bankruptcy court. In fact, all our clients basically keep everything they have. But Chapter 7 is good for certain people. Chapter 13 is good for others.
Okay. What about these debt resolution companies that seem to be popping up everywhere? Are they a good alternative to bankruptcy?
Well, that depends. For years and years, there have always been credit counseling agencies, and our advice to our clients is that if they're going to speak with a debt consolidation or debt resolution company, that they speak to a nonprofit entity. The entities that are in profit, in my view, do little but take money from the debtors and simply do no good. We're often fond of saying that if our clients could pay their bills, they wouldn't be our clients, so they obviously need help. And if you can't afford to pay your own debts, it's very hard to hire somebody to pay them for you. So you have to be very careful with the debt resolution companies. But I don't want to say that across the board they're all bad. We have seen some horror stories, of course, but typically the nonprofit credit counseling agencies can be useful in certain situations.
Okay. So I see, Mr. Orlow, many people have large car notes. Can you also tell us how a person's cars or vehicles are handled in bankruptcy?
Sure. Well, today, as you know, it's a fact of life that car payments have become high. And many times a client will come in and they'll have a vehicle which they need for reliable transportation, but the payment may be unaffordable. In certain circumstances, we can lower the car payment and keep them in their car. We can often reduce the interest rates. We can also reduce the amount that's paid back in the car, depending on certain factors such as the age of the loan and the type of vehicle it is.
Many people's biggest concern is keeping their house. What happens to a home in bankruptcy?
Well, I'm fond of saying that I've done 12,000 cases and I've never lost a house. People don't lose their homes in bankruptcy. However, these days, with the precipitous fall in market value, many of our clients are choosing to leave the home and walk away and get a fresh start in terms of all aspects of their life, including that high mortgage payment. They went out from under it. However, if the client wishes to keep their home, they certainly will.
How about the people who are just buried in credit card debt or medical bills? What can bankruptcy do for them?
Well, that's where bankruptcy can help. We can relieve them of the debt of the high credit card bills. We can discharge the bills completely. And also with medical bills. Contrary to what some people may think, medical bills are fully dischargeable in bankruptcy court, as are credit cards.
If a person has previously filed bankruptcy, is there a waiting period before they can file again?
Well, there are, and it depends, of course, on the type of case that the debtor files, the chapter, as it's called, under the Bankruptcy Code. In Chapter 7, the time period between cases is 8 years. Now, in Chapter 13, that waiting period is shortened, and it can be as short as 2 years, depending on the facts of the case.
So it sounds like bankruptcy is an excellent way for a person facing debt to get a fresh start. Is there anything important that we've missed here that you'd like to say to our viewers who are considering filing bankruptcy?
Sure. Well, you're right. Bankruptcy is an excellent way for people to get a fresh start. And I think it's important for the people to understand that the time to seek advice from a professional is when you start to experience your debt problems. Don't wait until you've exhausted all your assets. We see many clients who have, and this is a noble effort on their part, but they've exhausted their entire, all their retirement funds. They've gone through all their assets. They've made every effort to pay all their debts. And when they walk into our office, very often they have nothing left but the debt, where if they'd consulted with us or another professional sooner, they'd be able to keep most things. So that's my advice, that when you begin to have financial problems, that's the time to consult with a professional. Don't wait until you've exhausted or liquidated all your assets.
Some great information. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Orlow.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.